Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Going X and O. I have with me the recent winner of Adepticon, the current world champion of Legion, playing 9 games, going 9-0. Look at the swag. He's got it, ripping it. He's doing it for Gar, and with Ahsoka just coming out, makes it so happy. Man, look at that thing. That is
See if we can focus on
awesome.
it. It's clear, so it messes it up. But there you go.
Yeah. Wow. That is awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it was awful to get it back on the plane. I'll tell you that, man. It was
Well, Isaiah,
stressful.
thank you for coming on the channel.
Yeah, of course.
Just kind of start off and just kind of tell us about your Legion journey, how you started playing, how long you've been playing, and if Guard's your only faction or if you've dabbled into anything else.
Yeah, for sure. So I started playing after Gen Con 2023. I've been into board games for a long time. Pretty much as long as I had, disposable income. I've been into board games, even when I probably shouldn't. As a broke college kid, I was still really into board games. I always liked the idea of war games, all the way back in like 2000, probably 10, maybe even earlier. I was playing like HeroScape.
Oh,
But at that time, I was, a wee lad who didn't have a regular group to play with or anything. So it was kind of me trying to rope either, random family members or somebody I knew into it. And I didn't really ever have a community to really strive with that. So
yeah.
war games kind of fell by the side for me, even though I had interest in them for a long, long time. And then really got into board games, really got into a lot of the different things that are out there. And that's kind of what led me to things like Gen Con, where if you've never been, or for anybody listening who's never been, it's a big board game convention, but there's a lot of war game stuff there and a lot of more industry stuff. Unlike Adepticon, it's not as focused on a competitive, big tournaments of stuff. It's more announcements, releases, upcoming stuff, people kind of showing their new products. If you ever heard of like E3, what E3 used to be for video games, it's kind of that for board games, right?
Yeah.
And while we were there, I was walking around with my wife and we were looking at a lot of the different stuff. And we stopped by a game called Infinity. And we were just demoing stuff on the last day. And they called us over and said, "Hey, do you want to look at this?" And she expressed interest. And I thought, "Oh, okay, cool. If you're interested in this could be somebody I could regularly play war games with. That's great." And so we demoed it and she really liked it. And I was like, I kind of got excited because it hadn't crossed my mind of, I now have somebody I can permanently play
You're living the
war
dream,
games
man.
with. So I sort of bought a bunch of the different starter sets because after we demoed it, I walked away and we were talking about it. She's like, "I really enjoyed it." And I thought it was a good game. And so we said, okay, well, if we're going to get into a war game, we want to make an informed decision. I don't want to pick a war game and then go, "Oh, well, this was just the first one I saw. I wish I was invested in that one, but I spent $300 on this one, so I'm here."
Smart.
So what we did was we looked at the rule set for about like 8 or 9 different war games. And we basically ranked them on 3 criteria, which was how popular are they in the sense that can we actually find a game with other people? Because coolest war game in the world doesn't matter if you can't play it.
Yeah.
And then also how much do we like the system?
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of just ranking how we felt about the cost of it, because some of them can get very, very expensive. And we looked at it. Obviously, kind of the first guy ranking them via community. The first one was obviously Warhammer.
Yeah.
And the system didn't grab us. We didn't feel good about it. It felt very, very unfun. I didn't super care for the way the game was run. And we basically ended up coming up with Legion because, from everything I could tell, it was basically right behind Warhammer in terms of popularity.
Sure.
There were already groups up where we live that played regularly. And so we got into Legion. I really what sold it for me was the alternating activation system. I really like that. I think there's a strategy there, and my problem with a lot of other war games is, all right, well, I'm going to do my turn, and whoever goes first has a huge advantage. Or even if it's all simultaneous, you're still just sitting there for 45 minutes while they take their turn, and that's not fun.
100%.
It doesn't feel dynamic, and it doesn't feel good. And so I think the Legion system of alternating activations was honestly something that just felt really unique and fun. And the order control mechanic is really, really cool. And I think that's something that a lot of Legion players don't super care about a ton. They're either here because it's the first thing they got into, or because Star Wars, and Star Wars is great, which is a totally fair approach.
Yeah.
But I think that the system that they have for it is just awesome. So started playing it in 2023, and then played it pretty much just exclusively at home for a long time, because the one thing I didn't like about it was I thought the game was a little bit too small. I felt like you could never really build an army that was big enough to feel like it was unique.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't really play with cool, unique units. So for a long time, I just played 2,000 point games at home, back when 800 was the standard.
Yeah.
And so we would just, build up bigger terrain, bigger stuff than was normal, and on stuff that was completely unbalanced, but just a lot of fun.
Sure.
And then when the new rules came out, we kind of went, okay, 1,000 points, I can work with that. I feel like I can really get to where I can have something unique.
Sure.
And so we started branching out. We went to go play at a local store, and then we've been, doing local tournaments and stuff. And when I got kind of the competitive bug, I guess, bit me, was our local GT Evergreen Open. Was last August, I'm going to say, something like that. And I went and was not expecting to do very well, and ended up placing second in it. And that was my first real big competitive tournament. And that was kind of oh, this is cool. Oh, I like this. I'm gonna dive into this. So then I really started enjoying the competitive aspect a lot more. Traveled to a lot of local tournament, store size tournaments, 8, 16 person tournaments. Did go to LVO this year. Did not do well. Got stomped. Got destroyed. Only person who I care that I beat is in the because I qualified for LVO the first day. I didn't have to play,
Mm-hmm.
so we were just there playing pickup games. I played a guy who was an awesome opponent, great guy. Went 0-3 the first day, ton of fun. Ended up having drinks with him in the hotel afterwards. We hung out the whole convention. Next day we start the actual LVO play, and he comes over to my table. He's like, "Yeah, I don't care. I've gotten beat so bad this weekend, it doesn't matter. But these are the first games that matter." So he goes and he starts playing, and he wins his first game, and his second, and his third, and his fourth, and wins the whole thing. And he ended up being the whole champion. So it was really cool, because everybody else started getting real close to him and hanging out with him. And from the beginning, he was just coming over talking to me and being like, "It's working. I don't know what changed. It's working."
Wow.
And it was amazing, because he got all of his losing out day one.
So you played Michael before it all mattered.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. I got to play with him, and he was a lot of fun.
Amazing. Yeah, he was our first interview on here, and he was a fantastic guest.
He's a cool guy.
And had only been playing for less than a year at the time, and fantastic, really insightful. Also playing a Garless, so love that for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome. I love that you and your wife play, and how you got into it. And she also played in the tournament at Worlds and did very well. She qualified for the next day, made the top 64, which is fantastic. I'm pretty sure she was either the only woman or that played in the whole event, but she was clearly the top placing woman, which is great. I wish more spouses and wives would play, because it's not a complicated game. It's easy to learn, hard to master, maybe.
Oh, 100. I think there's a barrier there that is more mental than real.
Yeah.
I don't think it has I say that. I think it doesn't have the entry barrier, provided you have a community that's willing to teach and willing to engage with you.
Mm-hmm.
Which for some people doesn't exist, but for those who do, it really is not as hard. And a lot of communities will say, "Hey, I'll loan you a list. You don't need to buy a list. Just come in and play."
Yep.
A lot of stores will have demo lists that you can come in and play.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I think there might have been one other woman participating, but I think she was the only one who made the top 64.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So, that's a great sparring partner you can have to play with and really practice on. And
100%.
We're also not going to overlook, got some spoilers before we started recording here. You're from Oklahoma, I heard recently.
Yeah, I am.
So
that's true.
We're going to claim your world title for Oklahoma, not Washington, because you're born here, just like Brad Pitt. We're going to cling on to that, and we have a world champion in Oklahoma.
I tell you what, I will let you claim it if you hang a OSU banner over that Sooner Nation in the back there, then I'll give it to you.
I'll let Matt do that because he's our OSU fan, so that's fine. I'm not gonna. I can't wear orange.
So sacrifices won't be made, is what you're
Well,
saying. No, it's
see,
not
I
that
have a
worth it.
problem with the color orange, and it's mostly burnt orange, and I think
It's such an ugly color.
we can
It's
both
such an
agree.
it's
Yeah. Okay. Good.
it's such an ugly
See,
color.
we can have a common enemy. So it's just that whole color is just not my type. But
There are 4 years of my life where everything was orange, and it's enough orange for my entire life. I don't think there's any orange in this room
I
anywhere
don't
at
blame you.
all.
It really yeah, it's really eye catching. We'll say that. But anyway, we'll still be friends. Let's go ahead and start diving into this Obi-Wan Cody list. I'm gonna go ahead and share
Yeah.
my screen real quick just to get it pulled up. Here we go. So I kind of want to let me do a rundown for our audio listeners first. And then we'll just kind of go unit by unit, maybe, or just kind of like your overall thoughts of when you're trying to put together. And then I want to come back and talk about command cards. And then I kind of want to look to ask you about what specific missions you're hunting for to play. So,
Yeah, okay.
audio listeners, he has Obi-Wan with just Force Barrier, a naked Commander Coney, 2 clone troopers with the shotgun and impact grenades, a clone trooper with a shotgun, a medic, and impact grenades, 3 naked arcs, a clone commando with HQ uplink and armor, not the gun, interesting, and then 2 ISPs with the missile
That
pods.
was an error, yeah. They should have the gun in there. I think it just
Okay. So the gun,
I don't think you're
yeah.
Can you even legally build them without the gun?
I don't know because I know when you put it into like HQ uplink, it automatically adds it, and it's 0 points. So I don't know why you would bring it. Okay, so the gun, Katar and armor, and HQ uplink is really the only thing.
Oh, no, I guess you're not required to. I'm looking at the card. It doesn't have it as equip, but I mean, yeah, the gun's in there.
Okay, perfect. That
You would not take them without the gun.
Yeah.
I think I probably just forgot to put it on there.
Yeah, no problem. 100%. Okay, so yeah, just kind of walk us through your kind of what you're. I'm super curious about Obi-Wan with just 1 upgrade, and then naked arc troopers. Those are my 2 big things that kind of stand out to me. So just kind of take us through what you were building.
Yeah, so let's talk. I think the easiest way to approach it, rather than going unit by unit, which we can do, but let's start with kind of the theory crafting of the list,
Love
because I
it.
think that puts a lot of it in perspective.
Yes.
The list is really centered around. So the first iteration, I guess, of the list, or the first idea, the foremost idea for the list, is looking for a delivery system to get strong range 2 units up there, or range 1 units up there and in your face. And I think there's a lot of units in this game that are very, very, very powerful in those short range gaps. The issue with that is, one, it can be incredibly table dependent if there's a lot of LOS blocking stuff, or it can be very dependent on what your opponent's playing. If you're playing somebody with a lot of sleeper cells, whoever moves in first is going to hit harder, and it kind of goes back to a problem of who has the order control to go first. And maybe you wipe a unit of mine and I wipe yours back, but I've just wiped the one that's gone. And then I'm playing tit for tat and I'm losing.
Yeah.
So it was looking for a way to really get a delivery system up there. And there's been some things we've seen in the community. Some of those are LOS blocking things like Aqua Droids, or ATRT walls.
Yep.
We saw for a while with the 501st source stuff.
Buses.
Trying to think of other examples. The bus. Oh yeah, bus. How could I forget buses? The biggest example, buses. And I was looking for a way to do that is kind of unique. So it fundamentally works similar to how a lot of LOS blocking lists work, but instead of LOS blocking, it's centered around using Obi-Wan as a delivery mechanism, which I find to be better, because one of the biggest issues you have with those LOS blocking lists is you have traffic jams, where it just gets like, okay, well, I can't move over them. Or somebody can kind of outplay you in a way that, if they move around the side of your army, or you can get stuck where you're not able to pivot to other objectives. And there's a lot of downsides to playing a list that way. And that can be very difficult. And a lot of high level players can deal with that. And people who are smarter than me can look ahead and figure out what they're doing. But I would always make mistakes trying to do that. I'd lock myself into something, turn 1, where it's like, okay, well, here's my wall. Well, now I need to be over here. So
yeah.
I'm locked into. As soon as I pivot, I'm dead,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And even though the new rules are much more forgiving in terms of display, like there's no displacement, there's nothing like that. So you don't have to worry about moving your vehicles as much. It's still, I mean, you're still physically, there's space and it can be really hard and you can lock yourself out.
Yeah.
And it's not a non-zero number of times it's happened to me where that's been a problem. So I was looking at ways that you could make a similar effect happen without LOS blocking stuff. And what I found is there really wasn't a lot of ways there weren't a lot of support units that were really great at defensive tech. I mean, you could take Yoda and dodge stack a lot.
Sure.
But what I really landed on was, okay, well, Obi-Wan can really, really capitalize on basically just being a delivery system.
Yeah.
If you were going to use 3 ATRTs as a delivery system, that's what, 200 points, I think?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan's 170, and you get a lightsaber for it. Now, you get the worst lightsaber in the game, but it's still a lightsaber.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's still able to push up, and he's still, and even if he dies, getting you up there, I've gotten what I want up there. So then the next part of the list was, all right, well, let's go and let's build the meanest range 2 in your face, punch you hard list that I can.
Yeah.
And that's where the 3 arcs came in, because so long as they have access to the tokens that they need from the other clones, they don't need the extra health. They don't really need the extra dice. They're pretty strong as is. And then let's, the DP troopers. That's a lot of Pierce. That's a really mean close range list. The medic there is kind of just because I had some extra points and I could an extra health on Obi-Wan to keep him alive.
Obi-Wan loves medics, so.
So that was really the thought there. The Cody one, if anybody watched, I think I got this off on both of my. I'm trying to remember if I played it in my last game. Definitely played it in my first game on stream. I don't remember if I got it off. The prime reason for Cody in there is trying to fill a slot for buffing that attack back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or that attack for the pushing list.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, that was Rex, actually. Was not Obi-Wan.
Interesting.
Or was not, sorry, was Obi-Wan and Rex, not Obi-Wan and Cody.
Gotcha.
And I thought that Cody, or my issue I ran into with Rex was it's very easy to play around him, especially at high skill levels.
Yeah.
One, it's easy to kill him. He just dies.
Yeah.
So easy. And 2, and yes, he gives you recon and he gives you a scouting party and gives you a lot of stuff. But the issue with the Obi-Wan list is you don't really want to be pushing one person up further, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you still got to keep him in the bubble. So it was kind of like, well, I'm not getting a ton for this. And like I said, high level players can kind of maneuver around him. They can get out of his range. They can LOS block him. They can do all sorts of stuff, or they can just run up and punch him in the face and he dies. Cody's 2 pip is a similar amount of damage in a good turn. And so really the only reason he's in this list is one, so I needed another commander because I knew Obi-Wan was going to die. Obi-Wan's a delivery mechanism. He's going to die, and I expect him to die most games I play.
Okay.
So I want a second commander. Could go with a generic clone because I need the points. Or for 40 points more, I can go with Cody. I get that mean 2 pip turn, which for those who don't know is basically when he gets to issue an order to himself into 1 unit. And when either of those units take a wound as the result of attack, not necessarily being attacked, but as the result of attack. So, for example, Guardian. He can shoot back, so long as they are within range 4 of him, and so long as he has LOS on them, and can make a legal attack. So, if you engage him, he can shoot back. But what I found is that's really easy to do if everybody's shooting into the bubble. They're going to shoot at Obi-Wan, or Obi-Wan's going to Guardian 3. If I block it all, great. Obi-Wan didn't take a wound. If I didn't, okay, Obi-Wan took a wound and I get to shoot back at you. And he has impact on that. He has surge to crit on that. He has lethal on that. There's a lot of stuff he can do to make that attack back. And honestly, even if you're not shooting back into him, I'm getting the value in it as a deterrent because you don't want to shoot into that. That's a scary bubble. That's a really scary bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're rolling straight crits, I'm going to put it on Obi-Wan and it's going to hurt you. So that was basically just more protection for that, more protection for the 3 infantry and the 3 arc troopers.
Gotcha.
Which worked really, really well.
Yeah.
The second part of the list, so that's the first part of the list, was what I call the Obi-Wan hammer.
Gotcha. Okay.
The second part of the list is what I call the wall. And essentially what I learned trying to play that list, because originally that was a much meaner grouping, It had, I think, an extra. I think a lot of the core were double sized or had more to it.
Okay.
But the issue I was running into was I couldn't contest points. Especially a lot of the objectives have home points you have to defend. They have things that you need to hold in the back. And I was running into a big issue where I just couldn't hold the points. So what I decided was, well, I need to have something else in this list. And basically split it into two separate armies. So I have the Obi-Wan hammer, and then I pulled some points off and started trying to sort of play with the idea of a wall. And I didn't know, at the beginning, I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew the main criteria was it needed to be something that you didn't want to shoot at for some reason, because otherwise the Obi-Wan, nobody's going to shoot at the Obi-Wan hammer. They'll just shoot at this. And then we're back at square one,
Gotcha.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So either range or armor was kind of what I set into.
Yep.
You need to have something that just makes it, you're not going to get your money worth if you're shooting at it,
Gotcha.
or they're out of range. I settled on the range 4, and then I settled on the ISPs, which have a special place in my heart. I played around with the clone commandos, trying to figure out if ATRTs worked. I feel like commandos give you more bang for your buck than the ATRTs, and so I don't really see the value in them at range 4. Mostly because I know a lot of people really like the laser cannon.
Yeah. They're
A
cheaper.
lot of the things you're going to want to shoot at, you don't get the value out of until you have that have armor. You need more than 3 dice to really be punching on every turn.
Yep, I agree.
And the other part about the ISPs, why I like them so much, is they are so dang fast. There was a non-zero number of games that I won because somebody would be like, I'm securing that point. And the last activation of the turn, it would be double move ISP. They're over here now. My top 8 game, or sorry, not my top 16 game, getting into the top 8 was against, I'm going to forget his name, and he's such a nice guy. I feel so bad. One of the top players from the UK. See if I can find him. But playing against him was fantastic. Playing against him was fantastic. And the last move of the game, absolute last activation, he was convinced he had it. The game was done. And I double moved an ISP. I pivoted, strafed, and then moved an ISP to stop him from blowing up my base and won the game.
Yeah, I watched that game on stream. That was even the announcers was just like, oh man, like no one sees that ISP speed 3 and that big base. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah. It's mean.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah. So you only came down. So you chose the just one clone commander because you just had the points, and then they sit back. They're range 4. They hold an objective. I mean, that's pretty much all they do. And then with the ISPs, kind of is that. So that's the second part of the list, and then like
is the 1 clone commandos and the 2 ISPs.
Gotcha.
And you saw it on a lot of my games on stream where it would be Obi-Wan everything, ISPs, clone commandos, and they even called it out during my first top 8 game. They said, they were talking about where everything was going to go, and he said, "I bet you money that the commandos and the ISPs are going over there, and everybody else is going with Obi-Wan."
Yeah.
And he was 100% right. I'm really glad nobody else knew that, because regularly people will look at the ISPs and the commandos, and I try a lot of times. It's honestly kind of a mental game. I'll put them on the table first, and you'll look at that and go, I need to fight here because this is clear. You know how there's kind of that turn 0 game where I'm just, if I'm going first, I'm deciding where the fight is, and you're either have to respond or yield that to me. And I can keep putting here, and I can keep investing. And there's a certain point where you're just kind of like, all right, I'm just going to keep throwing it here. 2 ISPs and a commando is a great fake out. That is so many points, or such a big, it's not even that many points, but it's a big threat to put in a bubble. And people go, okay, so this is where his fight is going to happen. Especially with Cody, because people expect Cody to be played with vehicles. Which in my list, he is absolutely not. The direct vehicle is worth it on turn 1 only and nowhere else. And the range 4 is worth it on turn 1 only and no other time, because he's typically up in your face.
Interesting. Okay. So you're just directing turn 1, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Wow.
My turn 1 order control is pretty good, but after that, it's mostly just I will have orders on Kenobi and Cody, and other than that, I'm pulling from the bag. And with the HQ uplink on the commandos.
Of course. Okay, so but that's the list. I kind of want to go into. I'm looking at your mission cards here: bunker assault, breakthrough, close the pocket. I think those are just typical clone, like auto includes. I think with the lower activation count, which I think you have 10 or 11 activations.
I'm at 11.
11, which is pretty good for clones. because normally you can only get around 10. Were there any missions that you were hunting for, or auto banning, or just being like, okay, I don't want to play X, I'm gonna hunt for Y?
So as far as auto ban,
Mhm.
typically the high activation count ones, or the high that not activate the high POI ones.
Yep.
So recover the research was typically a pretty quick ban.
Okay.
Not always, because it's depends on what my opponent's
Yeah.
playing. But a lot of the times, if I don't have that in my list, so if they're bringing it in their list, they probably have a good either an activation count advantage on me, or they have a list that can operate more uh, independently than I do.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the times I found that to be bad, mostly just because of the people who brought it had their list built for that.
Yeah.
So that's the number one that I was like, no, not interested. Recover the research was, or sorry, not recover the research. Shifting priorities
Mhm.
was not as strong an auto ban, but that was a typically one I didn't want to play, mainly because you can really force an army to split up.
Yeah.
And with the Obi-Wan hammer, I need everybody at range 1 of Obi-Wan, or it just doesn't work, right?
Mhm.
So I could probably get that turn 1. I could probably get that turn 2, maybe turn 3, but by turn 4, you've moved, if I've secured both the points, they move twice.
Yeah.
They're move 2 away from each other.
Yeah.
Just on that, not including the initial 2 spaces that are
Mhm.
away from each other,
Mhm.
if my opponent is playing it right. And that can really be harsh. Maybe I have a low health clone unit that I just sent over there, but maybe I don't. Maybe I need to be using those activations for the fight. So I don't like that one as much. I just don't like intercept signals. That's just
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
that's not even like a strategy reason. I just don't like that one, man.
Fair,
I don't
fair.
know. I have no good reason. I just get mad at how long it takes me to get to my opponent's deployment zone.
Yeah.
Honestly, that would probably be a really good one with this list. I think I probably should consider putting that one in. I just don't.
My problem with that one is you can't score your home objective.
Yeah.
And like I think that would make it a lot better for a lot of armies if you could. And now I'm getting us off on a tangent on, faction speciality and stuff like that. But like if you could just sit a couple commandos on your home point and then score them, that would be great. But
Kind of similar to how you do for like bunker kind of thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
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 And I know breakthrough is breakthrough is not necessarily like bunker assault, but you have to prevent your opponent from scoring
Yes,
yours. So
there's
there's
still a yeah.
yeah,
Well, and there's no difference between scoring the one in your opponent's deployment zone and scoring the one in your own deployment zone, which is just kind of like, okay, well then why,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Either they make the one in your deployment zone worth more, so you need to play it defensively, or they
Mhm.
make you have points for it, or something. But it really, that one just doesn't feel good to me. And it's really honestly thinking about it with my list, I have the 2 separate split. I could probably do that one very well.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel good. And I mean, fortunately, nobody takes it, so I don't have to worry about that.
That worked. That works.
You know, yeah.
What secondaries were you looking to play the most? I see your ones on here, but is there? I know bring them to
Secondaries more
heal.
than secondaries more than anything else, I feel like is pretty dependent on what my opponent is playing,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
So if I see I'm playing either someone with CIS, I immediately try to bring them to heal as fast as I can. If I'm playing somebody with, pardon, if I'm playing somebody well, honestly, if I'm playing anybody who's not Gar, I'm trying to bring them to heal as fast as I can. And this is okay. This is the piece of advice I am giving to every player who plays any game of Legion where you are playing bringing them to heal. Do not put your Courage 1 core on the field first activation with no plan to put an Inspire or a Commander near them in the next activation. Almost every single time I played this, including my top 4 game, I got 2 points in round 1 by moving on and shooting with a range 4 gun twice at a B1 core. And I was just like, there's 2 points, and the other opponent was playing catch up the entire time. That
Wow.
objective is destructive if you can get the early lead on it.
Yeah.
and B1s, stormtroopers, rebel, like just regular rebel corps. The only people who don't have to worry about that are guard because we have courage too, and it's pretty hard to get 4 suppression on before I get a commander out there, right? And if you're putting 4 suppression on and not killing them, you're probably going to get 6 suppression on them and not kill them, right? So bring them to heal is really mean. Think about that as an objective when you're deploying your cores. And I was amazed at how often I was able to get points off, like the 2 extra points for getting a panicked enemy unit. Just turn 1. Because it's, oh, I'll move a B1 core on. Oh, I'll move a B1 core on. Oh, I'll move a B1 core on, because they want to use those to delay the
big stuff,
on the important stuff, which is normally a very good tactic. But I move on ISP, both shoot at your B1, and both of them can only see 2 of your models, so they can't kill you. Okay, I've got 2 points. Cool. I don't even need these ISPs anymore. They've done their job. And that happened almost every single time I played Bring Them to Heal. So that one's a pretty automatic auto include because I didn't end up playing any other Republic troopers or Republic players. I don't have any that I'm super auto banny on for this one. I don't love surface scan.
Sure.
I think that one can be.
It's very mission
easy
dependent.
To swing the game. Sorry?
It's very mission dependent.
It's very mission dependent. I do have it in my list, but that's more because I didn't have a good third one.
Yeah.
I think I prefer surface scan to the recon mission, even though they feel very, very similar to me. And maybe I'm just bad at game sense between the two, but they feel very similar to me. The other one that I kind of try to avoid, depending on my opponent, is mark targets. Because I do have, the Obi-Wan list is very strong. When Obi-Wan goes down, that hammer can start to fall pretty fast. And yes, they're red saves, and a lot of people focus on that as something that clones have. Red saves are only 1/6 better than white surges. And they only have 3 surges in this list, right? 3 surging tokens to share. Arcs can start to go down really fast. Infantry can go down even faster. The commandos are great, and they are probably the tankiest thing in the list, but even the ISPs, you're almost always in their side arc or rear arc and you almost always have impact on them, and they're only surging white saves, so they start to fall apart pretty fast. There's not a lot of things in this list that I can say, I am confident this won't die.
Sure.
And if you really want to kill something in this list, you can typically get it through. Even while Obi-Wan's still alive, he can only Guardian 3. Maybe I save my barrier to keep that alive, but it's a pretty rough one. So mark targets, I typically would leave alone.
That's fair. Okay. Just real quick on your command cards, are there?
Sure.
So looks like you brought all 3 of Obi's, of course, and then all 3 of Cody's, it looks like, as well.
I brought all 3 of both. I am torn on that decision.
Okay.
There was a part of me that really thought about bringing the generic, trying to find a way to bring a generic command card, whatever that would be, just so that you have something in case both Kenobi and Obi-Wan are dead. Or sorry, Cody and Obi-Wan are dead. But what I found was that if both of them are dead, I've lost the game.
Fair.
By the time they're both dead, I don't really have a shot left, or it's my order control really isn't mattering. There's only core and there's very little left in my bag. That I draw a core, it doesn't matter kind of thing. And that more often I was rewarded for having the diversity of choice for their command cards. Not that they're all winners. Looking at you, Cody's 3-pip.
Thank you.
But that just having the options, and even I say even Cody's 3-pip. I shouldn't be as hard on it as I am, because it does have the order control for 2 vehicles, 2 things, or 2 troopers. Mainly, I just used it for the if I used it, I used it for the 2 extra observe tokens. Basically, you're just getting a free aim out of it, but getting a free aim out of it is better than nothing, right?
100%. And we talked about his 2-pip, how I released you down, that little trick that you like to do with that, which I definitely agree is very, very strong with Obi-Wan and his Guardian 3, especially with his mastery. As long as he's got a dodge, I mean, he's re-rolling.
Oh, 100%.
And you almost kind of want him to take a wound on that turn just so you can fire off a shot with Cody.
Oh, the ideal is when I roll. I Guardian 3, I roll a block, a blank, and a surge. So you take one to deflect, and then I turn around and I slap you with Cody, and it's just filthy. I had that happen to an ATRT in my top 8 game, where I did a wound back, then did. Oh no, sorry, not to an ATRT. I did it to Bad Batch, where
Oh,
I did a wound, and then I did 3 more wounds on Cody's card, and it was just like, all right, so Wrecker and Omega,
yeah. Oh,
like it's a good feeling
yeah.
for what is effectively 1 wound on Obi-Wan, and if you had more and it got over his Guardian wall, but 1 wound on Obi-Wan, and I've managed to just blast you back with 4. You win that point trade almost all the time.
Oh, 100%. Is there any other kind of command card tricks that you were looking at when you were playing? Or I know you, I mean, hello there is the way you were playing him is probably not as effective because if he's within range 1 of multiple enemy units, he's probably not doing great.
You're
So
saying Cody or
I'm sorry, Obi-Wan. Hello there.
oh yeah, yeah. So the biggest thing that I thought was really funny about that was not on Hello There. It was on General Kenobi, which is his 3-pip, which it gives you. I'll pull up the card just to make sure I read it correctly. But it is effectively when you play the card, you get to give it to Obi-Wan and 2 troopers, and what everyone issued an order by that command card
Mhm.
gets 1 surge token for each friendly unit. Yeah, for each friendly unit, each other friendly unit at range 1 of them. So when you're off the board and you play that card, every other unit in your army is considered at range 1 of each other. So every time I would play that turn 1, unless I'm playing breakthrough, basically all my rules go out the window if you're playing breakthrough, because my turn 2 becomes my turn 1. My turn 1 doesn't exist anymore. Like,
Gotcha.
so
Yeah.
if you're not playing breakthrough, turn 1, this means that for an 11-act list, every command here gives out 10 surge tokens. So at the beginning of every game, I would look at my opponent. We play our command cards, and I'd hold up a asset token. I go, "This is a stack of 10 surge tokens," because I don't have 30 surge tokens to put on the board. And by the end, I had gotten so many of the like prize wall tickets that I had some of the acrylic tokens.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, all right, these are 10s, these are 1s.
Yeah.
And so I was playing abacus with my surge tokens.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
As you do with
which was
Obi-Wan.
so silly. Just to throw 30 surges
Mhm.
from his card on the board. They didn't end up mattering most of the time because turn 1, not a lot of things are shooting or getting shot, but they do matter either on breakthrough or on, if you fight an Empire list that has a range 4 gun line,
Yep.
it can matter. I fought somebody who had some range troopers in the open, or it might have been, I don't remember if it was on Heat or if it was in the, yeah, because my only Empire games were in
Yeah,
the
in
Heat.
the heat.
So it
Mhm.
was in the Heat. Somebody had some range troopers that were pretty mean, but I was surging on every hit
Yeah.
to the point where it's like, I'm not even going to take off the surge tokens because I have 7 more. I'm not going to get through them,
Yeah.
kind of thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
So
So
who are you issuing those orders to? That on that one specific turn? Were you giving it to all 3 of your clone troopers? You giving it to the arcs? I mean, I know
it
everybody can
mostly
share, but
depended. So the order control turn 1,
Mhm.
you go. It has to be Obi-Wan. I pop HQ uplink, so they've got one.
Okay.
Cody has direct vehicles, so one of the ISPs has it. So all that is available is the 3 core, the 3 arcs, Cody, and 1 ISP.
Okay.
Typically, don't want to give it to the other ISP because maybe, but not often.
Yeah.
It mostly depends on how many what the activation difference is between me and my opponent.
Okay.
How long I need to stall for before I can start moving things onto the game
Mhm.
or onto the board. Typically, with most units or with most armies that are in the 12 to 14 range, it's not that big of a deal to draw an arc early. There was one game I played against a 17-act rebel list that I was really struggling to figure out, and I ended up giving it to, I think, the ISPs and Cody so that I could delay for as long as possible. But a lot of the times I give it to the arcs because those are the things people shoot at,
Yeah.
and token sharing is limited to a single token.
Yeah.
So having the tokens natively on them
Mhm.
means, go ahead, shoot at me. It's full surging forever. You're
Yeah.
not going to do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's good. That's good. Okay. That's okay, let's go into some other questions here. We've kind of talked about the list as much as we can. And we've covered a lot of these questions already, so I'm just going to kind of pick and choose a little bit. Were
yeah,
there
sure.
any counter lists / archetypes that you were concerned about facing in the tournament?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
There was a list. So this list existed for this specific iteration of this list. It started out after LVO. I scrapped my list because it did not work, and I kind of went back to the drawing board, and that's where this list started and grew from there. I'd started this list with I kind of tried to play around with ATRTs. I kind of tried to play around with ARF troopers. I kind of tried to play around with a bunch of different things. But the biggest thing was I really was having just a horrible time answering specific meta choices. The biggest one being Aqua Droids. Aqua Droids are devastating to a list that doesn't have super high dice pools. And the arcs are generally an answer to that, although I didn't take arcs initially because I was kind of trying to stay off meta. And at the time, this was before the arcs increase in points, so they were very heavily played, and I didn't really want to lean into that. That resolve was shattered at LVO, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to lean into arcs because I got dumpstered otherwise. But I really did think I kind of wanted to try leaning around a little bit, but Aqua Droids were just devastating me every time. So I have a local league that I play in, and the local league rules are really dumb, Ryan, and you should change them. This is me actively calling you out on a podcast, and I'm going to do it any opportunity I have. But the local rule is that your list is locked in until you lose twice. So to encourage people to change things, but to be held to a change. Right. So you're not locked into, if you're really doing bad, you can change out and you can really play with it.
Sure.
But if you're winning, you're going to keep winning, I guess, or you're going to lose. And so this list I tried a couple different iterations in this, and I got kind of locked into it. And then finally, before last weekend, before the Adepticon lists were going to be locked, I said, okay, well, I played with it enough with them over small iterations and changed it and iterated that I had an idea for what I wanted. I had gotten really down to the core of the list, and I was getting into that point where you're like, okay, well, do these 9 points go for impact grenades, or do I go for recon intel, or do I go for another, like the scanner on on Cody to give him take cover 2? And it was really down to those last points that I ended up putting on impact grenades that I never used once in the entire LVO. But before Adepticon, I played this list in a local tournament, was my idea. There's a tournament about an hour and a half away from me at a store called Paradox in Tacoma, I believe, Tacoma, Washington. Drove down there, played against some really, really great guys. And it was a local tournament. Did not go undefeated in the tournament. This list has competed against my wife a lot, but outside of my house, it has only competed at 2 tournaments and no other games. It has competed at the Paradox tournament, and it has competed at Adepticon. And at Paradox, I went 2-1, and there is a player out there who has a very, very good player who I don't know if he wants his name shared, so I'm not going to go into that. But he's a great guy, great local, who's a local of a store called Blue Sky up here that had a Aqua Droid list with commando droids. And commando droids were really destructive to this list because Cody 2-pip doesn't work in melee. The Obi-Wan Guardian doesn't work in melee unless I play as 2-pip. Which you can big brain me and get completely overplay me if you bait me out of a 2-pip turn. And additionally, he got us to play breakthrough. And so he was able to get his commando droids into my lines turn 1, and by turn 2, it didn't matter what I played. I couldn't Guardian, I couldn't defend, I couldn't shoot back. The commando droids were destructive. And I was just not able, I didn't have an answer for that. So that was the list I was really terrified of going in. I was always terrified of Aqua Droids because I think they're very, very strong. And part of why I have played so many practice games against Aqua Droids. If you ever go look at my Longshanks history, it's like practice game against this list, Aqua Droids, this list, Aqua Droids, this list, Aqua Droids, with all my local people. But the one I was really scared of was Commando Droids, and I didn't fight a single Commando Droid all of Adepticon. They just weren't present, and I am super thankful for that because then I won. That has been so far the hardest thing for this list to counter. And maybe if I wasn't playing Breakthrough, I think it would have been a little bit better. Oh, I lied. I did play one set of Commando Droids at Adepticon. I just baited them into the ISP commando area and didn't have to deal with them. So that worked out very well. But
Nice.
if they engage the Obi-Wan bubble, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, I didn't know that you practiced this specific list before, and that's very interesting. So, whoever you are out there, you know that you have something on the defending world champ. So you keep that list up.
Oh, he knows. He's been very vocal to me about
That's great.
his excitement
That's
about it.
great.
And he's a great guy.
That's awesome.
All the people up here have been awesome
Yeah.
about
That's one thing about the Legion community. Everyone everywhere has just been
oh my
fantastic.
god.
Yeah, it's great.
They are amazing. I want to I after the event, I had a hard like deep breath. Went back to my hotel room and I pulled out I didn't have my phone on me during the event because I didn't want to have it going off on stream. Pulled it out and I had like 120 messages from people just congratulations and love and all sorts of stuff. It was the most surreal thing walking back to my hotel and somebody stopping me that I vaguely am aware of that I'm like, oh, I think I've interacted with you once before and was like, bear hug. Oh my God, amazing. And my opponents were the best people I have ever played against.
That's awesome.
They were so much fun. Going out to the bars the night before with to a karaoke bar with all the people who I had beaten who were amazing players and were just so much fun. I cannot express enough how much I am just blown away by how good this community was. I did not have a single game that I felt bad about. I didn't have okay, I won all of them, so but sure. I didn't have a single opponent that I wasn't like, oh my God, you're awesome. This was great. This was so much fun. The best opponent of all was the one that you would, if I told you their list, you would think, oh, that's not going to be a fun. It was the 17 act rebel list.
Yeah.
And you walk up to that table and you go, okay, are we going to get to round 3 and the game's going to end? No, best guy I played the entire weekend. So much fun, so great, so considerate, so good at the game, and also just a fun guy. Like, it's crazy to me how much fun I had with everybody who was there.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. That kind of brings just a random question up. Did all your games go to 5 turns? Was time ever an issue?
No, I do not. I am sure they did not.
Okay.
I am not thinking of one immediately.
Okay.
But I do not think I had any games that were decided by time.
Okay, that's a better answer.
I think I had games that didn't go the full rounds, but it was an exercise in administration by that point, if that makes sense. Those games where it's like we know and we're doing it, and maybe you're trying to get tournament points, or maybe you're trying to get kill points to score better, or whatever it is. But I don't think I ever had a game that was decided by time. Which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember a game that didn't go to round 5. I'm trying to think.
I was very impressed. All the stream games that I watched personally, they all went to round 5. And they seemed to be very quick, people were aware of the time. And I know that's been talked a lot about in the general community, especially down here in our local community, about not necessarily slow play, but just with learning a new edition, it does take time. And turn 1 being so long now that people are trying to find a way to, help people along and speed it up so we can get 5 rounds in 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people have a big focus on playing 5 rounds, which I understand, especially if the game is close and if the 5th round is going to make a difference. But a lot of the times I find that the game's kind of decided by round halfway through round 4. A lot of the times you know who's going to win. Now, that wasn't true of all my games. See the last game that came down to a single point, but well, I say that. I think the game was pretty decided by the end of round 4. But it was, I wouldn't want that to be anybody's thought of, oh, well, you won because time. You know what I mean?
And it sounds like it wasn't, so.
I will put my wife on blast for something that happened at LVO that I thought was filthy and kind of really, really funny. At LVO, she had a game that came down to time to the end of the 5th round. Now, in her defense, the guy she was playing, I think, a 16-act rebel list and was not slow playing, but was, I mean, that list takes time, right?
Sure.
It's not I do not believe he was intentionally trying to
16
be
acts is a
malicious.
lot to move around. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Mhm.
It's a lot to play,
Mhm.
and it's hard to go through it. But she ended up winning on time because she was 1 point ahead. And if they'd gone to kill points, he would have absolutely won,
Sure.
without a doubt.
Uh-huh.
He had to contest on breakthrough
Uh-huh.
her point, not even score it, just contest it so that she didn't score.
Yeah.
And he had an airspeeder that he moves, goes to put it down, and they call time for the first move. So if he'd picked up his movement tool and put it down, he would have gotten the game. If he'd picked up his movement tool, he would have been in the next
Wow.
action. But he
Yeah.
just didn't have it off the table yet. And so
Oh,
she ended up winning on him, which I
wow.
was a really, really tense, like, oh, and he was a super cool guy. He was
Sure.
awesome about it. He was like, oh no, that's horrible. And she, she was talking to me after, she was like, I feel bad about that. And I was like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But also, that's one of the perils of playing a list like that
Yeah.
is you run on time.
Yeah.
And that is the closest example I've ever seen of it,
Mhm.
but it's not unheard of, right? That kind of thing happens.
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%. Well, that's good. Just kind of wrapping up here. I got one more general question here for you. What are you looking
Yeah, sure.
forward to most in Legion this coming year? We just had a massive news drop. April
Oh,
15th
man.
is around the corner. I mean, I gotta ask. You play Gar? Are you an Ahsoka guy? Are you excited with me?
I'm really excited about Ahsoka.
Okay.
I think it was criminal that Rebels got her before Gar did. That was
Don't get me started. We need a whole other podcast to talk about that, but it's okay.
I have opinions about
We'll have
that.
you back on.
Um,
Trust me.
I am excited about Gar, or I'm excited about Gar. I'm excited about Ahsoka. I don't immediately feel like I have a list that she fits into as a commander.
Agreed.
I have a list that she fits into. I mean, she fits into any list as a squad leader. She's a very, very easy take
35 points.
as a
That's so
squad
much
leader.
value.
Like I said, I still don't immediately have something that I want to put her in as a commander, but I would like to play with it and figure it out. I do feel like I am most excited specifically about the customizable commanders and operatives.
Yep.
That is something that, to me, I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about. To me, the biggest one is I think it enables very unique play.
Yep.
I think a lot of people are excited about it for hobby reasons,
Yep.
which, yeah, that's the coolest thing for hobby, right? That's it. That's the biggest thing. And you can do anything you want. You want to put them on the most insane terrain? Cool, go for it. You want to give them a vibro staff as, whatever. Or you want to give them you want to bring in this weird piece of weaponry that's super niche and from some one game that you played in 2002 that nobody's ever heard of. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mhm.
That's fun. You get the self-insert, and that's awesome. But I am really excited about it from a gameplay perspective because I think it could very possibly enable a lot of very unique lists that could lean into something like what I did with Obi-Wan, where it was like, this list is built around a very defensive commander. List is built around somebody who's really good at this. And I think it will enable us to see support commanders that are not really, really bad, Yoda.
Yep.
I think it'll let us see offensive commanders that are super unique, I hope, at least.
Yeah.
And even if they are more expensive than a named character would be, because kind of what I imagine is going to happen is that if you were to go and build an Obi-Wan, like point for point in Obi-Wan, it would be more expensive than an existing Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
Which is fine because you can then build into niches that don't exist.
Yeah.
You can do something that isn't out there that's fun and cool, and I'm really excited to see what that gives us. I think that will be the single biggest thing for meta shakeup and just for fun.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably what I'm most excited about.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, here we have a lot of guys that like they've already like custom 3D printed their own like commander models.
Oh yeah.
Like one of our guys has you call him Commander Posey, and he has his own little mini rebel officer that he plays with all the time. So it's going to be really cool. And just imagine like if you could have built, not to say that Cody isn't supposed to be paired with Obi-Wan, but like if you could have built your own commander to be even more tailored towards defending Obi-Wan and giving out dodges and stuff like that, just to imagine how much better your list could have been.
Or put an operative in that slot in addition.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I'm really excited about, because I think you're with commanders, you might hurt for the lack of command cards, because a lot of commanders, their value is in their card. And I don't assume the custom commanders are going to have,
No.
well, I don't know. Maybe they might have some kind of like you pay points and you get this command card or something
Maybe.
like that.
Yeah.
But I think what's really going to be cool is where you put them in operative slots, where it's not. It may not be an either or. It might be an in addition. Like
Yeah.
maybe I drop an arc and I take a commander who has some sort of really mean melee attack, but is a glass cannon. But in the Obi-Wan list, that works. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I think there's a lot of really fun space there.
Yeah. No,
I
agree.
And like you're talking about, there's people who do really cool stuff with minis. There's a guy who in my local who runs a Ewok with a Myrtleizer that is funny and cool.
Jesus.
There's a guy who has a Hellfire droid tank that he uses as a proxy for a ATST.
That's
There are
awesome.
some really, really cool, fun things you can do out there. And one of my favorite things about AMG so far has been their approach to their very, very consumer friendly approach
Yes.
to, hobby it. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it, coward. You won't.
Yeah.
And it's every time that an issue has been raised, it's been them pushing on, well, I mean, if it's not harming gameplay, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Why not? And that's very unique in the hobby. I don't think a lot of Legion players realize how unique that is for war games. A lot of war game companies are very, very strict about what they will allow and what they will let you play with and what they will let, especially in official tournaments.
Yeah.
I had the whole day one, I was running a proxy mini with permission that was just a flag bearer in place of Cody. And, I cleared it with all my opponents and said, hey, this guy. And I don't think anybody had a problem with it. Oh, yeah, he did break by the end of the first day. So I had to put Cody back in, but their support for hobbying is amazing.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. And especially with all the news that's come out, it finally feels like they have really opened the floodgates on everything that they wanted to do, that they wanted to talk about and stuff like that.
And the prize support.
Oh yeah,
incredible.
this prize support has been great as well too. And all the hollow stuff is going to be great. And Kraken
I'm
packs
so
is
excited
going to
about those
be
booster packs. Oh man.
We got a bunch of card goblins down here in
Oh,
Oklahoma, so we're all super pumped. Well, thank you guys for being with us. We're closing on an hour here. Thank you guys so much. Isaiah, thank you again for coming in and talking about your list. It was a blast. Any shout outs you want to give? Anything you want to talk about? Anything we need to plug?
No, just want to. I mean, I'd shout out Zulus in Washington if you're around. That's a great place to play. I really don't have any huge shout outs. I think every opponent I faced at Adepticon, I want to give you a shout out, except for my game 2 in the heat. That person was really, really lame. It was my wife, but everybody's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. I would love to have you on to talk even more clones in the future. Maybe
sure.
pick your brain about Ahsoka. But guys, just remember, X and O is just a game away.